Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this, my second channel, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Ranty Flat Earth, Jose, is that Eric? Who's that? It is Eric. Eric, Chocolate Saying, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Ciao, ciao.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hola.
Hello. Right, let's do a bit of housekeeping. So, any signs of curvature?
No. None at all.
Nope.
Can't say I've found any.
Though people seem to be claiming the limited angle that you catch when boats start to reach the diffraction limit. Someone will claim that's curve. Idiots that they are.
Yeah, they used to claim that for the past couple of years, at least, that I've been in flat Earth debates, and I decided to take a look at that claim, and now I'm the Glober's apparently the Glober's best friend because I show their apparent curvature. What they don't realise is that I'm actually destroying their argument for that being the curvature, and so they're trying to play a game of doublespeak where they're trying to go back and say, oh, look at Ranty showing globe Earth proof. What they don't realise, like I said, is that I'm actually destroying their arguments, and they hate that.
Ranty, but the Globers know there's a little bit of inferior mirage in the bottom of the boat and in the bottom of the buildings. You gotta ignore that. Look at the top part, you know, the second top half of the observations. Yeah, there's a little bit of something going on, but just sweep that under the rug. Look, there's obstruction. Doesn't matter what it is. Obstruction is curvature in their spherical world. Yeah,
that's the thing. You see that they always defer back to the where's the bottom? Where's the bottom? Where's the bottom? That's all I've ever heard. You know, you can see things in the distance. You can see 3/4 of what you're looking for, and let's say that none of it should be seen on their model. So they'll refer back to the where's the bottom. Well, in the past, we've always seen in the bottom, we've had this inferior mirage, and they've always said that's where the curve starts, you know, the top of the hump, that's where you can only get an inferior mirage on a curve. And what I'm actually proving is that, no, that isn't the case. You can get inferior mirages on a flat surface, and they hate that. So they're trying to do a disinformation campaign against me and the work. But the good thing is that I do have quite a lot of support, not just in this community, but in other chats that I'm in as well. So a lot of other people are actually seeing the work for what it is. It's tackling the Globers head on, saying that, no, you used to claim curvature where the inferior mirage is. Now we know that that's all a lot of bollocks. It's not true. And you want to know where the bottom of the buildings are. You want to know where the bottom of the boat is. Look behind the inferior mirage, because that's where the hell it is.
Yeah, that's why they try to ignore that bit in the bottom, which is compressed and behind the inferior mirage and the refraction zone. They want to ignore it because it's not written in optics books. It hasn't been explored fully. That's why what I am interested in, also you. That's why, you know, I kind of tackle this neighborhood of looking at the phenomena going in the apparent horizon and the bottom of the stuff in the distance. I like this, and we're exploring it. We're exposing it as the apparent curvature.
And your train tracks are just killing it, man. I mean, that's just supreme evidence.
Agreed. Just one small correction. It is taught in optics. It's called the Rayleigh criterion. Feel free to look it up. Just want small correction.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Applies to everything, optics in general, so it doesn't matter if you're talking about the Hubble telescope or a microscope, the same principles apply in terms of a diffraction limit. This is what we're detailing in terms of it splitting in half. That's what's detailed in the Rayleigh criterion. Feel free to check it out. Should we move on to axial rotation? Any signs of that?
Nope.
No.
Not at all.
No? Nobody?
Nope.
Any evidence of gas pressure being maintained without a container?
No, we've been asking for that. We've had the Globies saying that they can prove it. We're still waiting for that evidence.
That's scientific evidence of gravity.
Nope.
Ditto without Nathan. Ditto.
No.
Any signs of the distance to the sun being proven?
Right, no.
There's no distance.
No. If we go to the transit of Venus, then we have to figure out what's the size and the distance of Venus. Then if you don't know, we go to the transit of Mars, right? So on and on and on, and it go in a loop, and it never ends. So we don't know what these objects or lights in the sky are. We cannot.
Fair enough. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No.
No.
Testicles.
What about the R value? Surely Earth radius has been proven by now.
No, and it seems that the Globers don't actually know their own model as well, and I'll get to that in a bit.
Yeah, Mick West added in the calculator. In his own words, he has to presuppose it, you know. They have to like just throw it out there so they can compare it to a model, a 2D model, and yeah, it's just a presupposed R.
Yep.
So are you going to go through it now, Ranty, or should we pick another housekeeping to focus on?
No, carry on.
Well,
I'm just sharing your show as far and wide at the minute.
Well, I was going to mention, we talked about it just before the show began, which was to say that there's a limitation of the angle to the bottom of things in the distance. And that limitation is what's detailed in the Rayleigh criterion in terms of what will happen when you reach the angular size limitation of any given device that's looking at something with a lens, something with an aperture. Then you've got this effect that you have to take into consideration, and it can be calculated. So if you have something going into the distance, the bottommost section of it, the bit with the most limited angle, as it gets further, that angle gets smaller, and eventually it'll reach the diffraction limit, and then that's what you see. So this is happening at the camera end. It's not happening out in the atmosphere at the point of what you're looking at. It's based on the aperture of the camera, as opposed to some effect that you see on the boat itself into the distance. So the angle is limited because you're looking across the surface of something to the bottom of something in the distance. And in the case of Ranty's boat that gets more and more miraged as it gets further and further away, that's because of that exact effect. Its angle to the bottom of it is more and more limited, and eventually the entire boat goes into that limited angle as it gets to its maximum distance that it can be seen in any form at all, and then it vanishes completely into its own mirage. It disappears up its own arsehole. But yesterday we had Alan B saying, how big is this boat? And I said to him, well, you're asking the wrong question. You should be asking how big is the angle to the bottom of the boat, because that's what's causing it to vanish. That's what's causing this mirage. That's what this mirage is. It's not some atmospheric effect. It's happening at the camera end.
Yeah, yesterday I got introduced to a new Flat Earth channel. I think you liked it, Nathan. You saw the guy. Did you subscribe to him?
You have to watch a lot of stuff. Do you have to give me a bit more info than that?
Nick Havoc, his name is. He's called Nick Havoc, and he did an observation in Colorado, looking at a mountain 132 miles away.
Okie doke. Sounds familiar, yes.
So it should. Well, he's been going in a back and forth with Mick West. So apparently Mick West has already been... I mean, I've not spoken to the guy, so I don't really know. But I did notice in the video that he mentioned Mick West. Now, we know that Mick West lurks around Flat Earth now. He hasn't lurked around my channel or Sleeping Warriors channel since we completely wrecked him last year. And he hasn't been anywhere near your channel since you got him to prove that his entire model is based on R, which cannot be proven. So he goes after what I would say the not low-lying fruit, because I hate that term, but people with relatively few subscribers. Now, this guy is seriously undersubscribed. I have to admit, he only had like 130 subscribers, and he's been going out for the past 3 months doing these observations. He's got himself a P900. He's going down. He's looking across lakes. He's doing driving long distances to go and take observations of distant mountains, doing all the relevant heights, etc., etc. And he's killing it. His observations are brilliant. He's doing a really good job. He puts the videos together nicely as well. So he's obviously spends a little bit of time on it. And it's the latest video. So I asked if I could mirror his video, which I did. And I think he's put on at least 100 subscribers since the past 16 hours, which is great because, you know, if been going for 3 months, he only had 130. I think now he's got 230 or so. So he's on his way. And I absolutely think that his observation is fantastic. And it just goes to prove that the Globers don't know their own model. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about that, because they don't seem to understand that if the base of the mountain is at, say, 6,000 feet, and he's at an elevation of 6,000 feet himself, then he doesn't need to account for the entire height of the mountain. And, you know, he only has to account for the prominence of the mountain as opposed to the entire height of the mountain. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to default back to try and get rid of his claim. They're trying to say that he needs to include the entire height of the mountain, which is wrong. It's not what you would do. He's at 5,000 or 6,000 feet. The mountain's base is at 5,000 or 6,000 feet. Then he only needs to measure the prominence of it. And because he's seeing all of the mountain from 132 miles away, it's absolutely astonishing.
Have you got a link? And I'll publish it to the chat.
Yeah, I'll post it to his. I'll do it to his because. Give me 1 second. And everyone should really go over and subscribe to this guy. He does, like I say, he's doing some great work. Just like myself, he goes out and he does these observations, and he's willing to drive. He's willing to do this stuff. Right, it's going in the side chat right now. Or do you want it on Skype, Nath?
Side chat's easier. That's perfect. The audience then immediately gets to see his channel and see his name and see me subscribe, etc., etc. So I'll pick up his Pikes Peak video and share that link.
What's up, y'all? I'm out. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon in Colorado. I mean, it is like super nice today. Just
excellent. Nice to hear it.
Yeah, you guys should go over there. This observation's killing it. I know Bob from Globebusters, he's really interested in talking to this guy. So, you know, I mean, he's very credible. And it seems that a few of my subscribers actually know this channel and have been subscribed to him for a while. But what's sort of like doing my head in is the fact that, you know, these guys are out there and we can never find these people. You know, who'd ever in the chat or on the panel had heard of the channel from Nick Havoc before I've just mentioned it now or yesterday?
No, I mean, it's,
you know what I mean?
It's nice. I
Never heard of
subscribed to him, but I watched it on your channel. That's probably why I wasn't subscribed to him. You mirrored it, obviously, and I watched it and thought it was good, but then didn't go and subscribe to him. My bad.
Right, so, well, anyway, I think people should go over and subscribe to him. The name's Nick Havoc, and yeah, the link's on my channel. If you can't find him, just look at my latest video. It's in the description. I've got a link to his channel, and go over there, watch his stuff. It's not just the one observation. He does lots of different observations, so you could spend the whole day watching. I think he's got about 20 or 30 different videos up. It's really, really cool stuff.
And even if you research a little bit like P900 testing Zoom or P1000 testing Zoom, there's people that are not even in this subject in the flat earth or long distance observations, but whilst testing, you know, their new equipment or telescopes, they catch a bunch of like jewels and gold nuggets that they don't even know they have. So we gotta like explore these channels with people with the adventurer spirit that go outside and just do observations for the hell of it and to see what we can find, because there's a lot of stuff everywhere, and we just are not aware of.
Yeah, and I think we should all speak to each other more. So if if anybody's in the chat right now and you've got a channel, or you've come across a new flat earther that's out there and you think they've done a really great observation, say something in the side chat. Let somebody go over and have a look at the work, and then if they're doing some good stuff, we can promote it from within, and we can help these other channels grow, because it's a long, hard scratching from the bottom up. Trust me. When you've got 50 subscribers, when you've got 100 subscribers, and you're doing some work, you're going out, you feel like you're putting the effort in, and nobody seems to, you're not getting anywhere. You don't seem to have a lot of following, and yet you might be doing some killer stuff. And that's all to do with the fact that we're a silent minority, because we don't tend to share, when we see other people's work. And I think it's the wrong way to do stuff. We need to be helping these other channels grow. The more people are out there doing this stuff, the more of a community we can get together. I hate the fact that we're divisive and that we don't help each other in that respect. And, if I can help in any way, shape or form, send me, rantyflatearth.com. You can email me, you can say, I've got a channel, or you can say, I know this channel. And, if they're any good, I'll do a promotion for them.
I totally agree. I was chatting about this with Martin Lite the other day, and saying it was really nice to see how the people in his little corner of the internet, with what he's dealing with, the history hoax and Antiquitech and various other things, they're all promoting each other. They're all shouting each other out, highlighting the work that they're doing, and it's very symbiotic, the sort of relationship between them, even though they don't know each other that well. You think that's really encouraging to see. There's no backbiting like I've certainly seen in the corner of the internet we find ourselves in, i.e. Flat Earth. Now obviously Martin Lite, Flat Earth British, he is also part of this community and does talk about that subject, but less and less. Now he's got his teeth into something new, which is fine, great. He's grown massively actually since he's changed his subject matter. Big shout out to Martin Lite, Flat Earth British. So yeah, it's much better on their side of the YouTube fence than it is on ours, I've got to be honest. And I like what we're doing at the moment. I've been insisting on people giving me the links to these videos. I didn't used to do that, so that people can actually go and subscribe to the channels that we cover. So yeah, it's good. I think long may it continue, Ranty.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I say, I don't think anybody realizes, if they don't have a channel of their own, how lonely it is and how much work you have to put in to actually get anywhere without anybody actually having your back. How long did it take me to get 1,000 subscribers, Nathan? Nearly a year. Nearly a year of doing this. I've got over 200 videos on my channel. That's a lot of work to get 1,000 subscribers. And if we can help other people grow much quicker than that, if somebody can go and they've got the will to do this kind of stuff, and they've got an eye for it, and they're in a great location, they're willing to put the effort in, let's scratch their back, essentially help them up, give them a leg up. This is what we need. We need more warriors on our side. We've got new ones. Jose's doing some good stuff. He's on his way. This is what we need. We need a community of people helping each other.
I mean, the person that was at the forefront of that, or has been at the forefront of it, was always Patricia Steer, and her efforts have resulted in the most attacks of anybody. So she's essentially promoting and encouraging the people who make their first videos and start to come out. Obviously she interviews big flat earthers as well, if you want to categorize them in that manner, but she's that person, and like I say, she gets the most hatred.
What?
Hey Travis.
How do?
So yeah, it would also be nice if, when those sorts of things happen in this corner of the internet, normally from our opposing side, that not always with her though, because she gets as much infighting as she does from Globers, probably more from flat earthers if anything. But it'd be nice to see a few people actually jump in and defend those sorts of people, when all they're doing is promoting the people who've just started tentatively making YouTube videos about this subject.
Whilst I'm here and whilst we're talking about this, I think Arwin is undersubscribed as well. He's just broken 800 subscribers, and it's he does his early bird. Come on guys, Go over there and subscribe.
Yeah, I occasionally get to watch Early Bird.
Thanks, Randy. I'm not at 800 yet.
How many are you on?
I see 796 now, but sometimes it takes a while to update.
He's rounding up.
I'm rounding up. Come on, let's see if we can push Arwin to the 900 today. Come on, guys. There's people that should be over there and watching. I mean, between us, between Arwin and Nathan, you've got at least 3 hours of entertainment throughout the day. At least 3 hours where you can just log in and you can either watch Arwin or you can watch Nathan, and you've got 3 hours of people discussing Flat Earth and interacting with you in the side chat. It doesn't take much just to click the subscribe button, does it really?
Arwin, type something in the chat. Type subscribe to me now, so people can click your name. You gotta type in now with capital letters, so they understand. It's mandatory.
But he can't say now with the accent, especially with the Puerto Rican accent.
Yeah.
He needs to say it in Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
I'll be back.
You notice that
I want to do a humble invitation to. There's a guy by the name Shonji. He was called out yesterday, I think it was, and he didn't show up. He was in a chat yesterday, some kind of a live show, and I told him, "You're invited to the Flat Earth debate. We want to hear your testimony. Why did you go back to the globe if you ever were a Flat Earther?" The first instance. He typed back something like, I go under one condition. If he can debate me, Jose Gonzalez, like one-on-one. I say, I'm not a debater, you can come in and we can. And he said, all right, so let's have a one-on-one discussion. I said, yeah, you're welcome. So I know he's going to be asked questions, but I'm very curious to see what made him go back to the globe. As I say, if he was ever a real flat earther,
It's in the viewing numbers for this show. It's all over the place. I've got
56
showing on my stream deck. I've got 115 showing on the phone. The live dashboard says 64. What the hell is going on?
I see 40, but like 2 minutes ago it was on 96.
It's all over the place.
YouTube is acting weird. I got interrupted right in my show. Suddenly YouTube could just cut off everything and then went back up. And the other day, yesterday, suddenly I lost my moderator powers in my own chat for like 3 minutes. That was so bizarre. Yeah, so YouTube is acting weird again. I don't know what they're doing.
Very strange.
Source of London says you see 250. So, Nathan, are you going to tell people why you're on this channel?
I had a community guideline strike, so it's happened before a couple of times. It'll no doubt happen again. But if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley channel, make sure you stay tuned after these shows, because you'll now get the after show, or on this instance, or in this instance, it's the pre-show, so you'll get the pre-show. So basically I've just reversed what was happening. So it used to be the case that the bit that's just recorded before the show starts live would go out on Nathan Oakley channel, which is where this show is now broadcasting. So you can exactly the same basically, but reversed, but with a more limited audience and much more screwy viewing figures.
And if you remember, it was this time last year that you had a strike again on the other channel.
Yeah, it's exactly the same scenario, almost 12 months pretty much to the day. So, yeah.
Yeah. They mustn't like you having you... Eh?
Such is life. I was going to move on. I was hoping, although we did it with curvature, to sort of toddle through some of the housekeeping points in terms of where they break down. So I was chatting with Anthony last night, which I was hoping he was here. I've got in touch with him on Skype just to see if he's responded to me. And he was saying, it'd be worth going through each, not necessarily every time, but just addressing why it's nonsense, why those questions, which are perhaps too succinct, if you haven't heard them before, you might just hear them and think, well, so what? I'm sure there's a workaround. Well, you know, in the case of curvature, we went into some detail about it, but axial rotation and the formal logical fallacy that's used to prove axial rotation with stars in the quote-unquote southern hemisphere. You know, that would be the debunk the formal logical fallacy, and begging the question being that in order to make that into a let's put that in quotes as well, globe proof, which it isn't, you have to first assume that you're on a sphere. So if someone says, how do you know, southern rotation in the southern hemisphere, or the star rotation in the southern hemisphere, go to you as a flat earther, you say, well, that's a formal logical fallacy. You're telling me that I'm travelling to where in relation to where I am currently, I'm going to be travelling somewhere where I'm hanging off the bottom of where I am now, antipode to where I am now. So you're making me assume that when I travel out in a southerly direction towards the horizon, as Anthony phrases it, and not towards, you know, my feet. So that's a logical fallacy. Tim's in the chat. Hey, Tim, this is your logical fallacy, isn't it, Tim?
Hovering his finger over the join link.
Yeah, man. I'd love to tell him for the 5th time. Yeah, so I'll just reiterate it because he's there, though. Just for Tim's benefit. Just for you, Tim. 5th time. So, if you say, if the Earth is a sphere, we will observe star rotation in the southern hemisphere, then you are automatically assuming that you're travelling to a position that is antipode. So you're essentially assuming your outcome. That's a logical fallacy known as begging the question. When you formalise it, i.e. you put it into the format, if the Earth is a sphere, we will observe rotation on the southern hemisphere. We observe southern rotation, therefore the Earth is a sphere. That's a formal logical fallacy, affirming the consequent. Double trouble when it's a globe proof, because you've got to beg the question, right? So it's a begging the question, affirming the consequent, formal logical fallacy. Or, as John likes to call it, a begging the question fallacy on steroids. Shout out to SX0 for the super chat. My channel reflects something different, does it? Oh, really? I'm sure you've managed to unwrap that logical fallacy, Tim. In your dreams.
Well, let's just be honest and just say it as it is. There is absolutely no proof for any of their assertions.
Well, they're basing it on the assumption of R. So let's say it like Tim says it. No, I gotta beg the question with R. Did that dilute the point at all for anybody?
And the ignorance of perspective-induced diffraction as a key point. The curvature, the starting point.
Absolutely. To put it another way, they've hijacked perspective and called it curvature. Go on, Travis.
I was just saying that Tim came in yesterday, so that I should see no reason why he wouldn't come in today.
Well, if you are going to come in, Tim, don't invite me to kick you, because I'll be happy to do that. Because to be honest, Tim, you're a flat earther in disguise. I know you are. You know you are. You're not a ball earther.
No. No,
Shout
this
out to
guy's a
Sleeping
believer,
Warrior in the
Riley.
bottom.
He's a believer.
Not a believer. He's a deceiver. Like Geo,
But
deceiver.
that doesn't exclude the other. You can be a believer and a deceiver.
Can't be a
You
believer.
deceive for your belief. No, that makes you even a bigger believer in his perspective.
Are you speaking of Tim Osman?
Yes.
All of them.
Why does he use that name?
Because it's the name of an ex. It's the name of an ex-FBI agent of some kind, isn't it?
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden.
Yeah, something like that. He's just pretending that he's somebody special, but really he's just a dick.
Yeah, nice try. That's a lunatic idea. Yeah, that was the code name for Osama bin Laden. The CIA gave him. So Tim Osman. Nice one.
Yeah, he's a former 9/11 truther. So 3 years ago, possibly even longer, he was saying words to the effect of "Flat Earth is only here to muddy the waters of 9/11 truth." That was his rhetoric.
Right. Yeah. I know. There's a lot of people that are 9/11 truth focused that hate flat Earth. It's a very telling thing I've noticed.
It's the narrative compartmentalization. Everybody does it, or has a tendency to do it, to narrow down your own reach to be a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah, well, I always ask the 9/11 Truth Movement, like, what? So you're going to feel you've attained a victory if you get what? Like, we get Bush and Cheney in jail, and it's a win, and then game over. It's nonsense. There's nothing's going to, other than realizing that false flags, whatever, 9/11 Truth. There's going to be no people going to jail over it ever.
This is going to be a very difficult. This is going to be a very difficult riddle to guess. Who said this? Tim Osman is Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Laden is Barack Obama, and Barack Obama is Will Smith. Who said
PJ.
Oh.
Well, hey, I noticed that Pete Shea actually looks a lot like Simon Pegg, just older look. But look at Simon Pegg. I think, yeah, Pete Shea, you're busted. You're Simon Pegg.
Agent Pegg.
Hey, Zinda. Hey, Warren.
Hi, all.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Billy Wazza.
Good to be here.
Yeah, that's Warren.
Hi, Runty.
Zinder, I heard the joke you told on Arwen's show. It was fucking hilarious, bro.
Oh, it was so bad. I mean, first of all, I had to translate everything.
It was just the way you said it, like the feeling you put into it. You say, "Gas station without a container." It was awesome.
Ah, this one, yeah. This
yeah,
one was,
yeah. Not the other joke. I didn't really hear much of that one, but the first one.
Yeah, I have to blame Alan for telling
you gotta tell Nathan. Tell Nathan.
No, I have to blame Alan for telling the other joke. The first joke is just ridiculous. That I won't tell it again.
It's a philosophical joke. It's a good one. It's decent.
No, I already told it once, and it was so crappy. I have to blame Alan. Alan is responsible for it. Give him the fault, so it's alright. But if you want to hear something hilarious, go to Flat Earth Debate 42. Back then, when people didn't take it really serious. And I will post it in the group chat.
You mean when people didn't take what serious?
Most people on the panel on Flat Earth Debate 42 didn't take anything serious regarding Flat Earth.
Yeah,
so what you're saying is the panel was full of trolls? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, pretty much. But it was really funny because Nick was there.
Nick with Noel?
The Nick guy in the chat right now.
Yeah, Nick with Noel. He used to be called Nick L. Do you know that? And he changed it because he was being bullied by Pete Shea.
Oh, I think
42.
Arwen already posted it in the chat.
Yeah. 42. Okay, so, I'll remember that. 42.
They were just shit talking all the time, and I found it so good. I mean, the show was so hilarious back then. When I only watched the 42 because I like this number, but maybe I will find some more.
So you watched it because it entertained you?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see the Globeheads winning, and basically completely overwhelming me, then go and watch the early shows, because basically I opened up the show, and who piled in en masse? Well, not the Flat Earthers, the Globeheads piled in.
But I saw it more like you were just a moderator, and you were just like kinda neutral.
Oh yeah, he was.
You just let people talk. So
yeah, but do you know what started to happen, Zinder? The ballers started when we had good points that we could win, and we could literally challenge the rhetoric from you guys or from the ballers. What was happening was that there were people that were then deliberately committing professional fouls, so that the point got lost when we were about to win. And one day there was a bloke called Hank, and he was asking Paper Explanator, "How does he know the distance to the stars?" Legitimate question, valid question, and Paper Explanator started off with this. He very quickly mumbled under his breath, "Well, you have to assume that the sun is 93 million miles away," and then he started off rambling and rambling and rambling, and the more he rambled, the more the point got lost. And after the show, I said to Nathan, I says, "Nathan, why did you allow that to happen?" And he's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "That was literally obfuscated. Hank had that guy on the ropes there, and he was trading blows with him, and he could have won that But for the fact that Paper Explanator had literally derailed that whole conversation, so that the point got lost, and Hank was like somehow scratching his head. You could hear him. You could literally picture him when you listen to Hank the way he's talking. You could hear him scratching his head because he's wondering, why am I not getting the answer? Because the point was being obfuscated, and it was the first time that I realised that they were actively and cleverly taking active steps to obfuscate points that they knew that they wouldn't win on. And I said to Nathan, perhaps we should change it a little bit and not allow them to do this, so that they have to prove their points. And from that moment on, well, now the panel's full of flat earthers.
Yeah, guess if I want to listen to constant shit talk, I guess there are other panels that can provide the need for it. But yeah, it was still funny listening to those guys, I have to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Fake news, Anthony. Fake news. It all changed when I joined.
Did it?
Yeah.
I think the turning point was when we got Paul Voigt, because we tested it. I think, Nathan, forgive me if I get this wrong here, but the way I remember it was that Paul Voigt was the first one that we really put in a corner and battered. You may remember it being somebody else because it was a while ago now. But I remember it being Paul Voigt with his claims on the molten iron core.
Yep, absolutely correct. It was Paul Voigt.
Yeah, which is why you see him lurking in chat periodically.
So you'd said to me, look, maybe don't, you kind of phrased it as such, we're in the minority, and if you allow them, the majority, to completely overwhelm and obfuscate these points, then we're never going to get any points across ever, because they're in the majority, and you're allowing it. So maybe don't let these points get obfuscated and take a bit more charge. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll do that. And then, not maybe the next show, but the next person that got battered was Paul Voigt. Absolutely annihilated. And he was one of the common pretender clowns that came on. He'd be on fairly frequently. And then he stopped.
Yeah. He came in a couple of times, didn't he? And we kept asking him, have you got that evidence yet, Paul? And he realised that it wasn't going away, this request. And then he just stopped coming in, and it's because he hasn't got evidence that the Earth has a molten iron self-perpetuating core made of nickel and iron that self-magnetizes itself. He hasn't got that evidence, but he pushes it. So that's why we did it. But back then, you had people like Curved Water, Brenda Von Assen, who I do have blocked, so she can't join, because she deleted somebody's work, like 700 files worth of their research, and she thought they were bats, so she deleted everything. That's why she's blocked. But there was Curved Water, there was Paul Voigt, there was Lewis. Come on, what were the names that we used to get in all the time? And you'd walk in, and it's like being in. Imagine being lay in the hole that they dig for your coffin when you die, and you've got all these ballers looking down on you, ready to pounce. That's how it felt. Curved Water to be there like it was like a job for him at 9 a.m. He'd be there bang on 9 a.m. every day. And like if he was late by 5 minutes, like I would report that he'd just phoned in sick or phoned in late, stuck in traffic, indicating that these guys were coming to this as though it was their duty to come and prove that flat earthers are nonsense. Tables are turned now, though, haven't they, boys and girls? It's not like that anymore. Now we can't even get used to come on the panel.
I watched last night 175 and 176 in time and a half speed as I was working overnight, and it was Ruhev, Philip Weinberg, and Rumpus. It was kind of the ones that joined the show, besides Riley, Ranty, and Arwin, if I'm not mistaken. It was really cool, those shows back then.
Yeah.
It was more formatted, as Nathan didn't let anything slide, because Rumpus was here for comedic value, just pretty much like he is right now. He just cannot obfuscate as he used to do, taking too much time, Philip Weinberg, he was letting a little slack, doing his modeling thingy. And then Ruhev always getting pissed because he get stuck in a corner and he tried to obfuscate and point to a different direction. Ruhev disappeared from this panel.
Yeah, Hube, formerly YouTube, now just Ute in the chat, has been doing the same. So he said he left me a comment saying words to the effect of, there's not enough flat earth content that I enjoy, so I've actually just been going back and watching my way through the debates instead, rather than watching some of the new stuff that's out. I was like, oh, well, that's a massive compliment, thank you very much. But he's periodically been chunking out little bits of it and publishing them. So massive shout out to Ute. But yeah, he's obviously finding these little nuggets where people, normally very quickly concede something and then try and move on. Just brilliant.
Yeah, Rumpus is the king of doing that. He'll literally say in the first opening sentence, when challenged, he will literally make the he'll make the admission that we're looking for, but he'll say it very fast and very trivially, so that it slips under the radar, so that he can then go on and obfuscate the rest of the point. No, that's not how it works. Get your evidence, prove the claim, and prove that we live on a bloody ball. That's the game. That's what the debate's about. And you guys cannot prove that we rotate, that we orbit. You can't prove all these housekeeping points, but you all pretend that they're true. They're not true.
So where did we get to? How many minutes we got left? We've got about a quarter of an hour left. So we did axial rotation and curvature. So what about gas pressure without a container? Why is that a point in the housekeeping?
Who are you asking?
Just trying to remember who it was attributed to originally. I think we decided in the end that it was actually quite a late one, and it was conspiracy cats that would be forever tarnished with that.
Yeah, gas pressure without a container. I think conspiracy cats. Yeah, I think you might be right, actually. It may have come up earlier, but I seem to attribute that one to conspiracy cats.
Well, I mean, it was quite a late in the day thing for us to push on the debate. It was just before the housekeeping was sort of solidified, and conspiracy cats came in to argue that very point. So we were discussing it as opposed to having it as a firm point that we asked in housekeeping, and then he came on the show, tried to debate it, and just tried to obfuscate. Basically, didn't address it in any way, shape, or form. And the reason he was the particular person was because he'd made an address to it in a video and backed our point. So he'd said, without the balloon, there is no pressure. And it's like, right, so without a barrier to hold the pressure in, i.e. for the pressure to press upon, there is no pressure. It disperses with entropy. Exactly our point. So the Earth, being a pressurized system, would disperse if there was no container or no balloon. Yeah, very good point.
Let's just do a little thought experiment for a minute. We all know that the pressure of the atmosphere is 14.7 psi at the beach, right? That's what we're told. If you get a balloon and you have no air in the balloon, right, it's flaccid. You have to blow the balloon up to put a pressure in it. If you get a pressure meter and you measure the pressure within inside the balloon, obviously the pressure from inside the balloon comes from the force that's being pushed against the balloon. You could measure a PSI of the balloon. But isn't it interesting that if you were to do that, I mean, what pressure do you reckon would go in the average balloon, given that a car tire gets about 30 PSI, 35 PSI? I would say a balloon's probably got maybe, what, 8, 10 PSI? But we're already in a pressurized environment of 14 PSI. So how does that work? Does it work with the? I mean, where does the balloon get its pressure from if we're already at 14.7? Anybody got any suggestions for that?
Well, you blow it up. You're putting pressure in with your lungs.
Yeah, but if we're already at 14.7 and the balloon only carries maybe 8 or 10 PSI, that doesn't seem to make sense.
Well, you can blow on it like in the same way a compressor does. I know that, you're going to get ribbed for this, but it seems simplistic. But yeah, it is that simple. You're just increasing the pressure of the pressure that's already in your lungs by blowing. In the same way.
I know, but what I'm saying is, if you blow the balloon up, whatever arbitrary value we say that a balloon's at, let's just say it's at 10%, right? 10 psi.
Well,
if that balloon has got 10 psi of pressure inside it,
so if you were to say it's at 15 psi,
sorry,
it'd be more than the atmospheric pressure, wouldn't it?
That's my point, is it? Because when you get a pressure meter on a balloon, I reckon a balloon would say maybe 8 psi, maybe 10, but we're already in 14.7 psi. So why is it not 14.7 plus the 8 that you've just blown into the balloon? I'm only spitballing. I'm just asking the question. I'm not making any assertions. Let's just be clear. I'm just asking, why is the balloon lower than the pressure of the atmosphere, but it's already in the pressure of the atmosphere? What's going on?
I don't think it is.
Well, anyway, it is. We're told it's 14.7 at the beach.
Okay, as much as this is a fun point, the main point is that if you have a pressure that cannot be contained without the necessary antecedent.
Well, okay, all right. Let me ask Zinda then. Being the house baller, Zinda, can you explain it to me? Because I'm having a bit of a blonde moment. How is it possible that you can blow a balloon up to a less PSI than the atmosphere? But we're already in that pressure.
So you measure 8 psi. The balloon has 8 psi, right? When you measure the force acting.
I'm not saying it definitely has 8. I'm just kind of spitballing at what pressure do I think a balloon might have in it, and I'd say maybe 10 psi would probably be enough to blow a balloon up.
I find it funny that you just called me a baller, but never mind. Now we think about if you have
you haven't sworn the oath of being a flat earther yet, though, have you?
No, I haven't. I won't.
Until you spread a little bit of blood on a letter where your fingerprint, you're not in.
So anyway. If your numbers are right, so imagine like now you have a vacuum chamber, let's say, right, and then you have to measure the pressure that would go into the vacuum chamber. How much would it be on sea level? Just to clarify, first of all, how much do you think would it be? How much pressure wants to go into the vacuum chamber?
How much pressure wants to go in a vacuum chamber to do what? Get it up to 14.7 psi?
Yeah, it would be like as the opposite of the balloon, right? Would be like it would 14.7 psi would want to go in the vacuum chamber, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
The pressure. All right. So now you have a balloon. When you fill it with air, I think. I'm just talking out of my ass right now. But when you fill it with air, it has a better equilibrium from the air inside to outside than a vacuum chamber to the atmosphere, right?
I can't believe you two Muppets are making this even more complicated. I've already said it once, right? It's going to be equal or greater than atmospheric pressure. I don't know why you haven't accepted this. I've already said it once.
I agree, Nathan.
No,
it has to be greater.
I don't think the balloon is capable of taking much more than maybe.
Well, another question I can ask you, because what I said before is like complete garbage. When you blow out a balloon, what happens with the rubber?
Stretches.
Yeah, and what does the rubber want to do?
Contract.
Yeah. Now you have it. The PSI, the 8 PSI, the pressure inside, come from the rubber that wants to contract again. And
but the bit that you're missing is that we're already in 14.7 psi.
Yeah, so you've got to get it to overcome that. I can't believe we're having this conversation. I've got to be honest.
Exactly, it's got to be stronger than the psi that it's in.
Anyway,
force its way.
The point is that in order to have that pressure, right, you need the necessary antecedent, a container, and once that container is removed, it disperses. That is the effect of entropy. That's what happens. I know. You can't have the balloon, the circle bit of the gas pressure that's inside that balloon, stay there once the balloon is removed. That's
right.
Impossible.
So when you take your finger off the balloon as you're blowing it up, when you're clamping it with your fingers, when you let it go, what happens?
You do realise that Nathan's literally beautifully illustrating the difference between begging the question and pulling it apart from the inside, or just stopping the conversation immediately at the start, because you can't have a gas pressure without a balloon. He is indeed right. I'm not saying that I'm advocating their side. I'm just asking the question: how does a balloon blow up if we're already in a 14.7 psi? That's all. That's all I'm asking.
I said that as well. So your lungs compress it, push it. Oh God. Somebody slap me.
One of the important points in this subject, in this point, is Riley and Cinder. Do you realize that Nathan called you guys Bert and Ernie, like the Sesame Street? He called you Muppets.
Who called who Bert and Ernie?
Nathan called you two Muppets for talking about this.
I don't mind. I don't care, dude. The funny thing is, the talking about hypothetical stuff and so, and it does it's kind of useful to grasp some concepts in the end. You can shut it down from the beginning and say, yeah, the balloon gets filled up because your lung pushes air inside it, but all right.
I'm amazed Arwin hasn't chimed in. Arwin liked these thought experiments, philosophical stuff.
Yeah. But if you further think about stuff, then you can discover stuff that is useful. And I think at the end, this is one reason why humanity got where we are, because people don't just say, a tree fell down because I just slammed my axe towards it, right?
Oh, completely. I mean, you can't decry the importance of philosophy. The scientific method has been derived from philosophical means. That doesn't make it philosophical, it is empirical, but it was derived by philosophers. So you're absolutely right, it's critical, and in some ways it's something that I don't have and Arwin does have. You know, that ability to conceptualize and go beyond the limits of some arsehole like me who says, no, logical fallacy. You're like, well, I'm just thinking about it. You know, well, without that, we'd all be very boring, we'd all be very stale, and we wouldn't go anywhere at all. So yeah, it's absolutely critical. I think you're absolutely right, Cinder.
Yeah. I have to go, guys, by the way. Have a nice debate, and hopefully a Glober will come to the panel who can challenge.
Globers don't come on this
everything.
panel anymore, Cinder.
Sadly. Well, maybe one day.
Hey Nathan, thank you for declaring me to be not boring.
You are superior.
Oh. I do my best.
Yeah, you're not boring, you're something else. Maybe a wizard?
Legolas. The evil Legolas. An evil Legolas?
That's amazing. I hope I don't turn into an orc.
So how's your early bird show going, Arwin?
Great, non-stop talking.
Do you get many people in the chat?
Yeah, lots. Well, not as much as here, but yeah, I don't have a lot of trolls. Only people that might be trolls here, but yeah, they have to behave over there, or I will time them out.
So do you want to give them a little rundown about what you do over there and what time it's on?
All right. I'll plug it. Yeah, the Flat Earth Early Bird Show. It's on every day, 1 hour before the debates start, which is 1 o'clock London time, 2 o'clock Amsterdam time, and I think between 6 and 10 or something American time. And yeah, it's an open platform. It's a morning breakfast show. That's the idea. Just calm talking, not too controversial, not too emotional subjects, but as interesting as possible. And yeah, people that I trust, I allow on the panel, contact me through Skype to do it. And we talk about flat Earth, about psychology, sociology, politics, alternative medicine, ethereal stuff, my dreams, anything pretty much. Anything goes.
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you're watching the re-up of this on Nathan Oakley channel, be sure to subscribe to Nathan Oakley channel to keep up to date with the live Flat Earth debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!